Anna and Robert seemed like the perfect couple. She was a successful businesswoman, and together they managed her chain of fashion boutiques. But one tragic day, Anna's life changed forever when a car accident left her paralyzed. As she faced her new reality, their relationship began to crumble. Pressured by his father, Robert made the heart-wrenching decision to abandon her in a remote town, hoping to claim her inheritance. A year later, when Robert returned, he was shocked to see how much had changed, not just in Anna's life, but in his own. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Before we dive into this story, please let me know in the comments where you're watching from. After following his father's cold-hearted advice, the man made a cruel and heart-wrenching decision to abandon his wheelchair-bound wife in an isolated, desolate town. The guilt gnawed at him, but he pushed it aside, driven by the promise of claiming his inheritance. A year later, filled with anticipation, he returned. What he discovered, however, left him pale and trembling, his heart sinking as he realized the consequences of his heartless act. Anna and Robert had once shared a life that others admired, a relationship that seemed like the epitome of success and partnership. Anna, a fierce and accomplished businesswoman, was well respected for her sharp mind and unstoppable determination. She had built an empire of fashion boutiques, her career booming with each passing day. Her husband, Robert, played a key role in the business, managing operations and standing by her side as they formed the perfect duo both in business and in life. One morning, filled with optimism and ready for another day of triumph, Anna rose early for a critical meeting with high-profile investors. The skies were clear, and the air was filled with the promise of a productive day. Dressed impeccably as always, Anna climbed into her sleek, new sedan, a symbol of her relentless ambition. As she navigated the highway, her mind was focused on the strategic points of her upcoming presentation, her confidence soaring. But fate had other plans. As she absent-mindedly reached to adjust the radio, her focus slipped, and in that fleeting moment, disaster struck. Barreling down the opposite lane was a massive truck, its driver fighting fatigue after countless hours on the road. The truck swerved violently, crossing the median at a terrifying speed. In an instinctive attempt to save herself, Anna jerked the steering wheel, but it was too late. Her car spiraled out of control, flipping over repeatedly, the metallic crunch of the crash echoing through the air before coming to a devastating halt in a ditch. Trapped and barely conscious, Anna felt excruciating pain coursing through her body. Her vision blurred as the chaos around her unfolded, and bystanders rushed to the scene, frantically dialing emergency services. Soon, paramedics arrived, carefully pulling her broken body from the wreckage. She was rushed to the hospital, her life hanging in the balance. Hours later, after grueling surgeries and endless prayers, the doctors delivered the shattering news: Anna had suffered catastrophic spinal injuries, leaving her paralyzed from the waist down. Her future, once filled with promise, had been forever altered in a cruel twist of fate. She would now spend her life in a wheelchair, dependent on others for even the simplest tasks. When Robert received the news, it felt as though the ground had been ripped out from beneath him. In the sterile hospital waiting room, surrounded by the heavy air of grief, his heart shattered. The vibrant life they had known, filled with adventure, mobility, and success, crumbled before his eyes. When Anna woke, the harsh reality of her situation hit her like a tidal wave, drowning her in despair. The fiercely independent woman who had once taken on the world now faced the agonizing truth that she would need help for everything. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 1 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. The weight of Anna's condition strained their once strong relationship. Robert, unable to cope with the drastic change, began to pull away. His affection for Anna, once so strong, started to fade as the reality of her condition became an unbearable burden. Anna, despite her circumstances, clung to hope. She fought to regain her strength, enduring painful therapy sessions and learning to navigate her new world from her wheelchair. But as she pushed herself forward, Robert drifted further away, both physically and emotionally. In the background, Robert's father whispered doubts into his ear, poisoning his mind with negativity. He suggested that Anna's accident had ruined her, that there was no future with her, and that Robert deserved better. Slowly, Robert began to entertain the thought of abandoning the woman he had once loved. He convinced himself that claiming her inheritance and walking away was the only path forward. Weeks passed, and the atmosphere in their home grew crew. Robert spent more and more time away, leaving Anna in the care of strangers. The tension between them was unbearable, the silence louder than words ever could be. Every glance between them carried the weight of betrayal, disappointment, and heartbreak. Anna sensed the shift in Robert, but even in her darkest moments, she held on to the hope that he would come back to her. Yet the day came when Robert finally acted on his father's heartless advice. He left Anna behind, disappearing without a word, abandoning her in a remote town where she had no family, no friends, and no support. Alone and vulnerable, Anna was forced to fend for herself in her fragile state, grappling with the overwhelming reality that the man she had built her life with had chosen to leave her behind. 1 year later, with the promise of wealth motivating him, Robert returned. He expected to find a broken, defeated woman, easy to manipulate as he claimed his share of her inheritance. But what he found when he arrived shook him to his core. His face went pale, his hands trembled, and his heart raced as he came face to face with the consequences of his betrayal. What awaited him was not the fragile woman he had left behind, but something far more unexpected, something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. After another heated argument about their increasingly bleak future, Robert found himself turning to the only person he thought might offer clarity: his father, Don Ignacio. A retired businessman, Ignacio was renowned for his cold, calculated decisions and his unshakable pragmatism. Robert hoped for comfort, perhaps even guidance, as he sat in his father's grand office, surrounded by symbols of success: lavish leather chairs, towering bookshelves, and walls adorned with awards and framed business deals. It was a world Robert had admired as a boy, but now seemed more suffocating than inspiring. Desperate, he poured his heart out about the growing tension with Annie and his fear of what lay ahead. Ignacio, who had never truly warmed to Annie and had always viewed her as an ambitious woman too focused on her career, saw an opening. He leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled as he gazed at his son with detached interest. "Robert," he began, his voice cold and void of any sympathy, "you must stop living in this illusion of responsibility. You need to consider your future, your life. Annie's in a tragic situation, yes, but you're not equipped to handle it. Frankly, no one is." Robert, stunned by the lack of compassion in his father's words, felt the need to defend Annie, to remind his father of the woman who had built an empire by his side. "Dad, Annie is fighting. She's not giving up, and neither should I. She needs me now more than ever," Robert replied, trying to hold on to the conviction he felt slipping through his fingers. But Ignacio, unimpressed and unmoved, shook his head. "Son, let's be realistic. Her recovery will be minimal if it even happens at all. The truth is, she can't run her businesses like before. Her life, as she knew it, is over. You can't sacrifice everything for someone who won't recover. Her fortune, her company, it's all up in the air. If you don't step in now, you'll lose everything." A heavy weight settled in Robert's stomach as he listened, feeling the familiar knot of fear and doubt tighten. "What are you saying, Dad?" he asked, though he already sensed where the conversation was heading. Ignacio leaned forward, his cold, calculating eyes narrowing. "I'm saying that you need to think long-term. Put her somewhere where she'll get the care she needs, far enough away that you're not burdened. There's a quiet town not too far from here. No one will know her, and you can manage her affairs from a distance. Once everything is in place legally, you can take control of her business. After all, you'll inherit it all anyway. Why wait?" The words hit Robert like a punch to the gut. He felt the room spin as the weight of Ignacio's suggestion began to sink in. His father's plan wasn't just ruthless, it was cruel and heartless. Yet, beneath his horror, Robert couldn't deny the temptation creeping in. The constant weight of caring for Annie, the sleepless nights, the financial strain, the emotional exhaustion, it all seemed a wall to pull him deeper into a spiral. Was his father right? Could he leave Annie behind? "Dad, I can't just abandon her. She's my wife," Robert said, though the conviction in his voice wavered. The thought of betraying Annie felt unbearable, yet he was no longer sure he had the strength to resist. Ignacio's voice softened, almost seductively persuasive. "Robert, it's not about abandonment, it's about doing what's best for both of you. Annie needs care you can't give her, and you need to think about your own life. You've always known I'm right. If you don't act now, you'll regret it. You're not built for this life, for this burden." Robert left that night in a daze, Ignacio's words echoing in his mind. The heaviness in his chest deepened with each passing day as he wrestled with his conscience. The idea of abandoning Annie, of walking away from the life they had shared, felt like a betrayal. Yet every argument, every glance at Annie's pain, distant face, chipped away at his resolve. The constant strain weighed heavily on his heart, and the more Robert saw her struggle, the more he began to believe Ignacio's cruel logic. Finally, after weeks of inner turmoil, Robert made the fateful decision. One evening, after yet another bitter argument about their future, he felt something inside him break. His mind, clouded by doubt and exhaustion, accepted his father's plan as the only solution. With a heart heavy with guilt and a mind plagued with uncertainty, Robert began making arrangements. He contacted a small, inconspicuous nursing home in a remote town his father had recommended. Discreetly, and with little emotion, he arranged for Annie's transfer, knowing that once she was there, she would be far from their shared life, far from him. As he hung up the phone, Robert felt an overwhelming sense of dread, knowing that the decision he had just made would haunt him forever. The night before they were set to leave, Robert lay awake, his mind a chaotic storm of emotions. He was haunted by memories of the confident, ambitious woman Annie once was, her radiant smile lighting up boardrooms and social gatherings. But those images were now cruelly intertwined with the harsh reality of her fragile, broken state, helpless and dependent. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw both versions of her, and the weight of his decision crushed him. His guilt was suffocating, yet he had committed himself to the path his father had laid out. At the crack of dawn, Robert rose, exhausted but resolute. He packed their bags, each action feeling like a betrayal, and prepared for the trip that would change everything. Meanwhile, Annie, ever trusting and hopeful, believed Robert when he gently explained they were going on a trip that would benefit her recovery. She had no reason to suspect anything. Even in her weakened state, her heart held on to the belief that Robert still had her best interests at heart. But as they pulled up to the small, unassuming nursing home in the remote town, Annie's heart sank. Confusion filled her eyes as they walked through the modest facility, the realization slowly creeping in. When Robert turned to leave her there, the betrayal in Annie's tear-filled eyes pierced through him, leaving an indelible scar on his conscience. She reached out for him, but he turned away, unable to face the truth of what he had done. As he drove off, the image of Annie standing there, vulnerable and abandoned, burned into his memory. It was a look he knew would haunt him for the rest of his life. Back in the city, Robert attempted to bury his guilt in work and sought solace in his father's cold reassurances. But no matter how much he tried to focus on his tasks or listen to Ignacio's calculated justifications, the emptiness gnawed at him. His life, once filled with purpose and love, now felt hollow. The growing chasm between the man he used to be and the man he had become was undeniable, and the guilt was a constant shadow he could not escape. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 2 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Meanwhile, in that remote town, Annie watched helplessly as Robert's car faded into the distance, leaving her behind. The sense of abandonment was overwhelming. She felt as if the world had collapsed around her, suffocating her with grief and despair. The nursing home, though staffed with kind-hearted caregivers, was unfamiliar and cold compared to the warmth of the life she once shared with Robert. The modest facilities couldn't offer her the emotional support she so desperately craved, and the loneliness of her small room only deepened her sense of isolation. The first days were unbearable. Annie spent hours staring out of her window, lost in thoughts of what could have been, struggling to accept that this was her new reality. The betrayal, more painful than the accident that had taken her ability to walk, weighed heavily on her spirit. Every creak of the floor, every distant murmur in the halls of the nursing home, only reminded her of how far she had fallen from the life she once knew. The staff did their best to comfort her, but it was Marta, a gentle and kind caregiver, who took Annie under her wing. Marta, with her warm smile and calming presence, made it her mission to ease Annie's suffering. She would sit with her for hours, telling stories or simply holding her hand during Annie's darkest moments. Though Marta's kindness brought some comfort, the deep wound left by Robert's abandonment was something only time and perhaps a miracle could heal. That miracle came in the form of Rebecca, Annie's closest friend. When Rebecca heard of what had happened, her heart broke. Without a moment's hesitation, she dropped everything and made her way to the small town to be by Annie's side. Rebecca knew that her friend needed her more than ever and was determined not to let her face this battle alone. When Rebecca arrived at the nursing home, she found Annie sitting by the window, a shadow of the woman she once knew. Upon seeing her dear friend, Annie's composure crumbled, and she wept uncontrollably. Rebecca rushed to her side, enveloping her in a warm, comforting embrace. The two women clung to each other, sharing their sorrow, and in that moment, Rebecca made a promise. "I'm not leaving you, Annie. We'll face this together, I swear it." With Rebecca by her side, a faint glimmer of hope began to flicker within Annie. Her friend's unwavering support and optimism were like a lifeline, pulling her out of the deep pit of despair. Rebecca, with her boundless energy and infectious positivity, encouraged Annie to step out of her room, to reconnect with the world, even if it was just the small, sleepy town surrounding them. One morning, Rebecca insisted that Annie accompany her on a short trip to the local grocery store. Annie was hesitant, feeling like a burden and still struggling with the reality of her condition. But Rebecca was having none of it. "Annie, you need to breathe some fresh air. You can't stay locked up in that room forever. We'll just go for a short while. I promise it'll be good for you." Reluctantly, Annie agreed, and soon they were making their way down the quaint streets of the town. The grocery store, though small, had a welcoming atmosphere. As they entered, the scent of fresh bread and local produce filled the air. Rebecca went off to pick up a few items while Annie, still nervous, wheeled herself around the aisles, trying to distract herself from the weight of her thoughts. Suddenly, the peace of the moment was interrupted when a shopping cart bumped into her wheelchair. Annie startled, instinctively clutching the arms of her chair. But when she looked up, she was met with the apologetic face of a stranger, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Annie smiled. The kindness of this simple interaction was enough to remind her that, despite everything, there was still hope for healing. Annie looked up into the warm, apologetic eyes of a handsome stranger, and for a brief moment, the weight of her sadness lightened. "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't see you," he stammered, clearly embarrassed by the mishap. Despite everything, Annie mustered a faint smile, hoping to brush off the incident. "It's all right, I'm fine," she said softly, her voice calm but tired. Relieved by her response, the man quickly introduced himself, a gentle smile playing on his lips. "I'm Charles. You must be new around here. I haven't seen you before." Annie, her eyes betraying the sadness she tried to conceal, replied with a quiet nod. "Yes, I just arrived recently." Charles, sensing the melancholy in her words, felt a wave of empathy wash over him. There was something about this woman that stirred a deep desire within him to help, to offer her a small slice of peace in what appeared to be a tumultuous time. "Well," he began, his voice kind and inviting, "if you ever need anything or want to explore the town, I'd be happy to show you around. It's small, but the people here are kind." Before Annie could respond, Rebecca, who had been standing nearby, watching the interaction unfold, stepped forward with a knowing smile. "I think that sounds like a wonderful idea, Annie. Charles could show you all the hidden gems this town has to offer." Caught off guard by her friend's eagerness, Annie hesitated, but something about Charles's sincerity made her want to say yes. After a brief pause, she agreed, and they exchanged phone numbers, planning to meet the following day for a tour of the town. For the first time in what felt like forever, Annie felt a tiny flicker of hope inside her. Perhaps, despite all the pain and loss, there could still be room for something new, something positive. That night, as she lay in her small nursing home room, the faint glow of the moon filtering through the curtains, Annie allowed herself to imagine what tomorrow might bring. She thought of Charles and his warm smile, of the town she had yet to discover, and of the possibility that maybe, just maybe, life could still hold unexpected joys. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the curtains, bathing the room in a soft golden glow. Annie stirred, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. The cheerful singing of birds outside added to her growing optimism. For the first time in a long while, the day felt less like a burden and more like a gift. Rebecca, always a whirlwind of energy, arrived early, her infectious enthusiasm filling the room. "Today's a special day," she said brightly, pulling open the wardrobe. "We're going to make you feel fabulous." Together, they picked out a comfortable yet lovely outfit, and Rebecca helped Annie get ready with a sense of care that made her feel seen and cherished. By the time they finished, Annie felt a small spark of confidence return, a sense that perhaps she wasn't entirely lost. At the agreed time, Charles arrived at the nursing home, looking effortlessly charming in a casual but well-put-together outfit. His smile, bright and genuine, immediately put Annie at ease. "Ready for your grand tour?" he asked with enthusiasm. Annie smiled back, her heart fluttering with a mix of nerves and excitement. "I think so," she replied, her voice soft but hopeful. Charles took hold of her wheelchair handles, guiding her gently as they made their way through the town's quiet streets. The tour began at the central square, a quaint and picturesque spot lined with charming little shops and inviting cafes. "This here is Da Clara's Bakery," Charles explained, pointing to a shop with a cheerful, colorful facade. "She makes the best cakes in the entire region. You have to try them sometime." Annie nodded, feeling a tinge of excitement at the thought of visiting. They wandered further, passing by small parks and local spots, Charles narrating stories about each place with an enthusiasm that was contagious. "And here's the park," he said, gesturing to a green space where children were playing and families were lounging on blankets. "It's a gathering place for everyone in town, especially on weekends." As they strolled, Annie couldn't help but notice the warmth of the town. People greeted each other with smiles, waved from across the street, and exchanged friendly nods. The sense of community was palpable, and for the first time in weeks, Annie felt a sense of belonging stirring inside her. Though her world had been torn apart, here was a place that seemed to welcome her with open arms. Eventually, they arrived at a quiet spot in the park, shaded by the large, sprawling branches of an old oak tree. Charles parked Annie's wheelchair beside a wooden bench and sat down next to her. "This," he said with a soft sigh, "is my favorite spot. I come here when I need to clear my head. It's peaceful, don't you think?" Annie, touched by his openness, felt a shift in herself. She had spent so long feeling like a burden, so lost in her grief, that she had forgotten how to connect. She gazed at the gentle swaying of the tree branches, the sunlight dappling the ground beneath their feet, and felt a strange sense of comfort. "It is peaceful," she agreed quietly. Feeling a need to share, Annie hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I never thought my life would change so much in such a short time. A few months ago, I was running my own company, managing everything. Now I'm here, trying to find a new way forward." Her voice broke slightly, and she felt a lump form in her throat. Charles, listening intently, nodded with understanding. "Life has a way of throwing us into the unknown," he said gently. "But sometimes the unexpected paths lead to places we never imagined. You're stronger than you realize, Annie, and you're not alone in this." Annie looked at him, his words sinking into her heart. For the first time in a long while, she felt that perhaps there was a way forward after all. Charles nodded, his gaze steady and full of empathy. "Life has a way of surprising us, leading us down roads we never anticipated. But even in the darkest moments, there's always an opportunity to grow and find happiness in new forms." Annie, her heart lightened by his words, smiled softly. "You're right. Maybe this is a chance for me to start over, to find something new." The afternoon passed gently, and eventually, Charles wheeled Annie back to the nursing home. Before parting ways, he handed her a small gift, a well-worn book of poems. "This collection has brought me comfort during difficult times," he said, his voice warm. "I hope these words give you some peace too. And remember, Annie, I'm here for anything you need." Annie held the book close, her heart touched by his thoughtful gesture. "Thank you, Charles. It means a lot." That night, as she opened the book and let the words wash over her, she felt a small, tender healing begin within her soul. The poems spoke to her pain, but also hinted at hope, just like the small moments of kindness she had started experiencing again. Rebecca, who had been quietly witnessing Annie's journey, smiled with pride. She knew her friend was slowly reclaiming her life. In the days that followed, Annie's world began to expand in small, significant ways. With Rebecca's unwavering support, she started venturing out more, becoming familiar with the town that had once seemed so foreign. They visited Da Clara's bakery, savoring sweet treats over coffee at the cozy cafe in the square, and spent afternoons strolling through the park, chatting about everything and nothing. Though some days were harder than others, Annie began to feel a subtle shift. She was becoming part of this town, part of a community. One sunny afternoon, as they sat on a bench in the park, Rebecca noticed a distant look in Annie's eyes. "You seem deep in thought, Annie. What's on your mind?" she asked gently, her voice full of curiosity. Annie turned to her with a heartfelt smile. "I was just thinking about how lucky I am to have you. I don't know how I would have gotten through all of this without you by my side." Her voice wavered slightly, the emotion raw in her words. Rebecca squeezed Annie's hand with love. "Annie, we've been through so much together. I'm here for you now, just as I always will be. You'll never be alone." Tears welled up in Annie's eyes, not from sadness but from a deep sense of gratitude. Their friendship, once built on shared joys, had grown even stronger through shared pain and resilience. With Rebecca's boundless energy and unconditional support, Annie felt empowered to rebuild her life. Together, they began to make plans for the future, daring to believe that happiness was still within reach. And there was a new excitement bubbling in Annie's heart, a spark of anticipation about seeing Charles again. Every outing with him brought a sense of adventure and strength that she hadn't felt in what seemed like a lifetime. Rebecca, ever perceptive, noticed the glimmer of hope in her friend's eyes and grinned. "I can tell today's going to be another great day for you, Annie. You deserve every bit of it. Go and enjoy." True to his word, Charles arrived on time, exuding his usual warmth and energy. "Good morning, Annie. Ready for our next adventure?" he asked, his smile bright as he gently took hold of her wheelchair. Annie smiled back, feeling a surge of optimism. "I am. Let's go." Each time they spent together, she felt more alive, as though each outing was helping her rebuild the parts of herself she thought she had lost. The morning unfolded quietly, yet it was filled with meaningful moments. Charles took Annie to the town's library, a quaint and inviting space that smelled of old books and warm memories. As they browsed the shelves together, Charles spoke about his love for literature, sharing his favorite authors and the genres that had brought him comfort over the years. "Did you get a chance to dive into the book one gave you?" he asked, genuinely curious. "I've read a few pages," Annie admitted, her voice soft but honest. Charles nodded, his understanding clear. "Poetry has a way of speaking to the heart when we're ready to hear it. Something is healing about it, don't you think?" His words resonated with Annie, and for the first time in a long while, she felt that healing wasn't just a distant dream. After their time in the library, Charles led Annie to a small cafe in the town square, where they sat outside, the warm sun on their faces as they watched the world go by. The gentle hum of conversations and the clinking of cups created a comforting backdrop. Annie relaxed, allowing herself to simply enjoy the moment. It was something she hadn't done in a long time, just be present, without the weight of worry pressing down on her. As they sipped coffee, Annie began to open up more about her past, her voice growing stronger with each word. She shared stories of her company, of the endless hours she had poured into building her business from the ground up. There was pride in her tone as she recounted the successes and challenges that had shaped her journey. "It was exhausting, but seeing it grow was the most satisfying thing I've ever done," she said, a spark of her old self returning as she spoke. Charles listened intently, his admiration for her clear. "That's incredible, Annie. You've accomplished so much, and even though things are different now, that strength is still inside you. I see it every time we talk." His words were like a balm to her soul, reminding her that despite the hardships, she still had the power to shape her future. For the first time in a long time, Annie felt like herself again. There was still so much uncertainty ahead, but at that moment, with Rebecca's friendship, Charles's kindness, and the town's quiet beauty, she felt the promise of a future where happiness, in its way, could be found again. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 3 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. You've accomplished so much, Annie. Don't let this accident define your life. You're strong, and there's still so much more you have to offer," Charles said with deep conviction, his eyes filled with admiration. Annie, moved by his words, felt a warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you, Charles. Your support means more to me than I can express," she replied, her voice soft but sincere. With each passing day, their connection grew stronger, not just in friendship, but in a shared sense of purpose. Charles helped Annie shift her focus away from her physical limitations, encouraging her to see herself as someone who could still make an impact. As Annie became more involved in town life, she found herself attending local events, meeting new people, and slowly integrating into the community. It was a transformation she hadn't expected but welcomed with an open heart. Her days, once filled with loneliness and sorrow, now began to take on a new rhythm, one of hope and possibility. One afternoon, as they walked through the park under the shade of oak trees, Charles proposed an idea that would change the course of Annie's life forever. "Annie, you've always talked about wanting to help others. Have you ever thought about starting something right here in this town? Maybe a project that could benefit the people who need it most?" His voice was filled with excitement, and Annie could see that this was something close to his heart. Annie's curiosity piqued. "I've never considered it, but I love the idea. What kind of project are you thinking about?" she asked, intrigued by where this conversation might lead. Charles's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. "A rehabilitation center. This town desperately needs a place where people can recover and receive proper care. With your experience, leadership, and passion, you could make it happen. Think about it, you could create something that would help so many people, including those facing the same challenges you've overcome." Annie felt a spark ignite within her. The idea resonated deeply. Creating a rehabilitation center would not only allow her to use her talents and expertise, but also give her a renewed sense of purpose. The thought of helping others who were struggling, just as she had, filled her with hope. "Charles, I think that's an incredible idea," she said, her voice laced with excitement. It would be a meaningful way to give back and help people who are going through similar challenges. I'm ready to make this happen. Charles smiled, his admiration for her clear as he gently took her hand. I know you can do this, Annie. And I'll be right here by your side, helping you every step of the way. With Charles's unwavering support and Rebecca's loyal friendship, Annie began laying the groundwork for what would become her greatest project yet. The rehabilitation center wasn't just an idea anymore, it became a burning mission that lit up her life. Together, they dove into planning with full force, researching what it would take to bring the center to life. The community, touched by Annie's strength and determination, rallied behind her. Her story had spread, and people admired her courage and willingness to turn her struggle into something that could help others. What began as a small idea quickly became a town-wide initiative, with volunteers offering to help however they could. It was as if the town had found a new sense of unity, all driven by the belief that the rehabilitation center could change lives. Annie, Charles, and Rebecca formed an unstoppable team. Charles, with his nursing background, contributed valuable insights into the medical and therapeutic needs of future patients. He spent hours with Annie, guiding her through the logistics and ensuring that the center would be equipped to provide the best care possible. Together, they visited nearby towns to research other rehabilitation centers, gathering inspiration and learning from their models. They spent hours in the library, poring over books and articles, learning about rehabilitation techniques and patient care. Rebecca, always the practical one, took charge of the legal and administrative tasks. She made frequent trips to the town hall, charming local officials with her charisma and securing the necessary permits for the center. Her relentless dedication and sharp mind earned her the respect of the town's leadership, and soon, doors that seemed impossible to open began to swing wide for them. Rebecca became a well-known and trusted figure in town, ensuring that every bureaucratic hurdle was cleared with efficiency and grace. As the plans for the rehabilitation center began to take shape, Annie found herself filled with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. The center became more than just a project, it was her lifeline, a way to reclaim her identity and her future. Each step, each victory, no matter how small, gave her the confidence to keep pushing forward. She envisioned a place that not only helped people physically recover, but also provided emotional support, a place where hope could thrive. The project breathed new life into Annie. Every day she was more inspired and energized, her mind constantly buzzing with ideas. She attended town meetings, spoke with local business owners, and met with architects to design the layout of the center. Charles and Rebecca stood beside her through it all, their belief in her unwavering. One day, after a particularly productive meeting, Charles and Annie sat in the park, looking out at the sunset. I can't believe how far we've come, Annie said, her eyes filled with wonder. Just a few months ago, I felt like my life was over. Now I feel like I'm just getting started. Charles smiled softly, his heart full as he watched her. You've always had this strength, Annie. It just needed the right moment to come forward. And now, you're not only changing your own life, but you're going to change the lives of so many others. Annie leaned back, taking in the beauty of the moment. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of what the future held. With the rehabilitation center on the horizon and the unwavering support of her friends, she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she had the strength, the love, and the determination to overcome them. This was her new beginning, one she had never anticipated but now fully embraced. Michael, the town's mayor, quickly became one of the most enthusiastic supporters of the rehabilitation center. During one of his meetings with Rebecca, he expressed just how vital the project was for the town. This center will be a blessing for our community, Michael said with conviction. I'll do everything I can to ensure the town hall backs you fully. With the mayor's promise of support and the community's shared passion, the project truly started to take shape. Annie and Charles found the perfect location, a long abandoned building on the outskirts of town. Though it had seen better days, its bones were strong, and with some work, it could be transformed into the heart of the Hope Rehabilitation Center. As soon as they secured the property, volunteers from all over the town rallied to help with renovations. Local carpenters built ramps, electricians ensured the building met safety codes, and many donated furniture and medical supplies. The overwhelming generosity was awe-inspiring. It's incredible, Annie said to Charles as they stood watching volunteers work tirelessly. Seeing how everyone is coming together for this cause, it makes me feel like I've finally found where I belong. Charles smiled, his heart full of pride as he looked at Annie. This center isn't just helping others, Annie. It's giving you purpose and strength. I'm so proud to be on this journey with you. As the physical renovation progressed, Annie and Charles also focused on the services they wanted to offer. Annie's vision was not only for physical rehabilitation but also for emotional and psychological healing. They planned a range of programs: physical and occupational therapies, counseling, group sessions, and recreational activities to uplift patient spirits and encourage pace. Annie knew firsthand how important a sense of community and belonging could be to recovery. Months of hard work, determination, and collaboration led to the grand opening of the Hope Rehabilitation Center. On Inauguration Day, the town gathered to celebrate this monumental achievement. The newly renovated building gleamed with fresh paint and welcoming energy. Annie, Charles, and Rebecca stood proudly at the entrance as they prepared to cut the ribbon, overwhelmed by the sea of supportive faces that had come to witness this momentous occasion. When it was time for Annie to speak, the emotion in her voice was undeniable. "This center is the result of everyone's love, dedication, and hard work," she began, her eyes scanning the crowd filled with familiar faces. "Together, we've created a place where people can find hope, healing, and a new beginning. This dream wouldn't have been possible without every one of you. Thank you for believing in this vision." As she concluded her heartfelt speech, the crowd erupted into applause, with many wiping away tears. Charles and Rebecca stood beside her, both beaming with pride. Charles hugged her tightly, his voice full of admiration. "You did it, Annie. You're incredible. There's no limit to what you can achieve." Tears of joy welled up in Annie's eyes as the weight of everything she had overcome and achieved washed over her. The love and support from the town filled her with a deep sense of accomplishment. "I did it," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. The celebration that followed was filled with warmth, laughter, and shared joy. Patients who would soon be part of the Rehabilitation Center's first group walked through its doors with hope in their hearts, inspired by Annie's story and the community that had built this haven. The staff, handpicked for their compassion and expertise, welcomed them with open arms, eager to begin the journey of healing. As the weeks turned into months, the Hope Rehabilitation Center flourished. Annie, determined to remain an active part of the community she had built, became deeply involved in every aspect of the center's operations. She organized group therapy sessions where patients shared their struggles and triumphs, fostering a supportive environment. These gatherings became the heart of the center, creating a tight-knit community where patients could lean on one another for strength. Annie's progress was nothing short of remarkable. With the help of physical therapy, she began using a walker more frequently, pushing herself to regain strength and independence. Each small step forward was a victory, not just for her but for everyone who witnessed her perseverance. The day she took her first steps without assistance was met with cheers from the staff and patients alike, her triumph and inspiration to everyone around her. The Rehabilitation Center became a beacon of hope for the entire community. What had started as an idea born from pain and loss had blossomed into a place of healing and new beginnings. Annie's journey was a testament to the power of resilience, love, and the strength found in community. Through her efforts, countless lives were changed, including her own. Annie had transformed her darkest moment into a legacy of compassion, and in doing so, she rediscovered her inner strength. The center wasn't just a place for physical recovery, it was a place where hearts could heal, where hope would flourish, and where people found the courage to dream again. As the center grew, so did Annie's belief that anything was possible, no matter the challenges life threw her way. The Hope Rehabilitation Center had become a true pillar of the community, and with the recent generous donation from a local foundation, Annie, Charles, and Rebecca were poised to take it to new heights. This expansion represented more than just additional space. It was a chance to offer new, life-changing programs and services that would reach an even broader range of patients. The trio wasted no time diving into daily meetings to map out every detail of the project. Their top priority, building a new wing dedicated entirely to children's rehabilitation, an initiative they had long dreamed of but had not yet been able to realize. "We have so many children in the community who desperately need our help," Annie explained during one of their planning sessions, her voice filled with both urgency and excitement. "With this new wing, we can offer them the specialized care and support they need to thrive, to live healthier and more fulfilling lives." Charles always focused on the therapeutic aspects and added thoughtfully, "We could also implement aquatic therapy. I've been researching its benefits, and it's particularly effective for children with certain physical conditions. The water alleviates pressure on their joints and muscles, making therapy less painful and more effective." Rebecca, in her role as the logistics mastermind, nodded in agreement. "A therapeutic pool would be perfect. I'll talk to the city council about it. Michael already mentioned he's on board and willing to help with anything we need for the expansion." With a concrete plan in hand, the trio set to work. They began drafting designs and working with architects and medical experts, and Rebecca took charge of obtaining the necessary permits. As always, Michael, the town's supportive mayor, proved to be an invaluable ally, smoothing over the bureaucratic hurdles and keeping the community informed about the progress. Construction soon began, and the center bustled with the noise of hammering, drilling, and the steady hum of anticipation. The community's enthusiasm for the project was palpable. Volunteers regularly stopped by to lend a hand, donate materials, or simply express their excitement. Each brick laid symbolized another step toward transforming the lives of the center's future patients. Annie was at the heart of it all, deeply involved in every aspect of the project. She visited the construction site daily, chatting with workers, ensuring everything was moving smoothly and keeping spirits high. Despite the long hours and physical exhaustion, her enthusiasm never wavered. "This new wing is going to change so many lives," she often remarked to Charles, the passion in her voice unmistakable. Charles, meanwhile, had been busy connecting with experts in aquatic therapy, eager to ensure that the new program would be state-of-the-art. One afternoon, he shared some exciting news with Annie. "I found an aquatic therapy specialist who's willing to come and train our staff. They'll help us implement the best practices and ensure that we can provide top-quality care." Annie beamed with gratitude. "That's fantastic, Charles. With their expertise, we'll be able to offer something truly special here." Rebecca, ever the strategist, worked tirelessly to spread the word about the expansion. She organized fundraising events and community outreach programs, and even enlisted local businesses to sponsor elements of the new wing. "The community response has been nothing short of incredible," she told Annie one day. "Everyone wants to contribute, whether it's time, money, or resources." Finally, after months of relentless hard work, the day arrived for the grand opening of the new children's rehabilitation wing. The entire town gathered to celebrate this momentous achievement, the air filled with excitement and pride. The new wing was stunning, bright, welcoming, and fully equipped with the best technology and facilities, including a state-of-the-art therapeutic pool. Annie stood before the crowd, visibly moved as she prepared to give her speech. "Today, we don't just celebrate the expansion of our center," she began, her voice cracking with emotion. "We celebrate the power of community, the spirit of collaboration, and the belief that together we can create a better future for everyone. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for your unwavering support and commitment. This center is a testament to what we can achieve when we come together with love and purpose." If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 4 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. The crowd erupted into applause, many wiping tears from their eyes as they shared in Annie's pride and joy. Charles, Rebecca, and Michael each took turns speaking, expressing their gratitude and excitement for what the future held. Michael, always the town's biggest advocate, smiled broadly as he said, "This center is more than just a building, it's a beacon of hope for our community. I'm proud of everything we've accomplished together." The inauguration was a resounding success, with people touring the new facility, meeting the staff, and hearing about the cutting-edge programs the center would now offer. Within weeks, the new wing began welcoming its first patients, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Families who had struggled to find proper care for their children were filled with gratitude, knowing they finally had access to the specialized rehabilitation services their children so desperately needed. The aquatic therapy program quickly became one of the most popular offerings, with children and adults alike benefiting from the gentle, soothing environment of the pool. Charles and the newly trained staff guided patients through tailored exercises that helped them regain mobility, strength, and confidence. As the days passed, Annie's vision of a place where people could find healing and hope was fully realized. She continued to be a hands-on leader, regularly visiting patients, overseeing therapy sessions, and ensuring the center's standards remained high. More than that, she took special care to connect with the children who came to the center, offering them words of encouragement and hope. Annie's journey from tragedy to triumph had come full circle. The rehabilitation center, now an even more vital part of the town, had become a place of healing, growth, and community. Every patient who walked through its doors knew they weren't just receiving therapy, they were becoming part of a family that would support them through their recovery and beyond. As Annie reflected on the incredible journey, standing once again in front of the center she had poured her heart into, she smiled. She had found her purpose. And now, thanks to the support of her friends, her town, and her unwavering resilience, she was able to help countless others find theirs. As Annie sat in her office, Taking a rare moment to reflect, she gazed out at the bustling Hope Rehabilitation Center through the large window. The scene outside filled her heart with a deep sense of pride and fulfillment. The center had come so far from the day she first arrived in town, overwhelmed by her challenges. Every hurdle they had overcome had only made her stronger, and now the thriving center stood as a testament to that resilience. Just then, Charles entered the room, his face lit up with a warm smile. "Annie, you wouldn't believe how happy everyone is with the new facilities. We've been flooded with thank you messages all day." He walked over and hugged her, a shared moment of gratitude passing between them. Annie, pulling back slightly, smiled with determination. "Charles, this is just the beginning. There's so much more we can do, and I can't wait to see what we achieve next together." The expansion of the center had been an incredible success, but with it came new responsibilities. Every day brought new patients, each one with unique needs, and the quality of care needed to remain exceptional as the center grew. The demand for services was rapidly increasing, and Annie, Charles, Rebecca, and Michael knew that in order to meet this demand, they would need to strengthen their teamwork and push forward with a clear focus. Their priority was expanding the team. Annie and Charles led the hiring process, seeking out individuals who shared their passion for rehabilitation and community care. They conducted dozens of interviews, looking for not just qualifications but the right spirit people who would go above and beyond for their patients. After weeks of careful selection, they built a team of dedicated physiotherapists, nurses, and support staff from various backgrounds, each bringing something special to the table. One crisp morning, Annie gathered the new team in the freshly completed conference room. She stood at the front of the room, her heart brimming with hope as she welcomed everyone. "I want to thank each of you for joining us on this journey," she began, smiling warmly. "We're here to make a real difference in our patients' lives, and I believe that together we can accomplish incredible things." Charles, standing beside her, added, "Collaboration and teamwork will be the foundation of our success. Each of you brings unique skills and perspectives, and together we can overcome any challenge that comes our way." The meeting continued with introductions and discussions about the center's new programs. Annie and Charles emphasized the importance of open communication, mutual respect, and teamwork. They wanted to create an environment where every staff member felt valued and empowered, ensuring that the quality of care remained consistently high. As the days passed, the new team integrated beautifully, working in perfect harmony. The aquatic therapy sessions quickly became a favorite among patients, who reported significant improvements in both their physical mobility and mental well-being. The children in the pediatric rehabilitation wing, full of energy and hope, filled the center with laughter, their joy becoming a source of inspiration for everyone. Their courage reminded Annie of why she had embarked on this journey in the first place. Rebecca, always detail-oriented and forward-thinking, organized a series of workshops to ensure that the staff stayed updated with the latest rehabilitation techniques. She invited renowned experts in various fields of therapy to come in and share their knowledge. "Continuous learning is essential," she said during one of the workshops, addressing the eager staff. "The more we grow, the more we can offer our patients the best possible care." Meanwhile, Michael, ever the champion of the center, continued to be an invaluable supporter. He coordinated community events and organized fundraisers to ensure that the center remained well-resourced. "This center is the pride of our community," Michael said during a town hall meeting with local leaders. "It's up to all of us to ensure its success and growth." With the community's backing and the team's unwavering commitment, the Hope Rehabilitation Center continued to flourish. The children's wing thrived. The therapeutic pool saw daily use, and patients, both young and old, experienced profound improvements in their health. Every corner of the center buzzed with optimism, and it was clear that it had become more than just a place for physical healing. It was a sanctuary for emotional and mental recovery as well. As the team grew closer, so did their vision. Annie, Charles, Rebecca, and Michael often gathered at the end of long days to reflect on the progress they were making. One evening, as they sat together in the garden outside the center, watching the sunset, Charles turned to Annie. "Do you realize what you've built here, Annie? This center has become more than just a rehabilitation facility. It's a symbol of hope. It's changing lives, yours included." Annie smiled, her heart full of gratitude. "We built this together. And you're right, it's more than I ever imagined it could be." She paused, reflecting on how far she had come since the accident, how far they had all come together. "This journey isn't over. We have so much more to do, so many more lives to touch." Rebecca chimed in, her voice filled with determination. "We're not stopping here. There's always room to grow, always new ways to help. And with this community behind us, there's nothing we can't accomplish." Michael nodded in agreement. "Whatever you need, I'm here for it. The town is behind you 100%. With the warmth of the setting sun casting a golden glow around them, the four of them sat in quiet contentment, knowing that the road ahead would be filled with more challenges but also more triumphs. Together they had created something truly extraordinary, and the future of the Hope Rehabilitation Center was brighter than ever. As Annie sat in her office, reviewing some reports with her usual focus, Charles burst in, excitement radiating from him. "Annie, we've just been invited to present our work at a national rehabilitation conference. They want us to share our journey, our success, and the impact we've had. This is huge." Annie smiled at the news, feeling a surge of pride. It was a testament to everything they had built. However, before she could respond, her phone rang. The tone of the conversation immediately shifted when she recognized the voice on the other end. It was Robert's lawyer. "Annie, Robert and his father have decided to return to town," the lawyer said, his voice serious. "They want to meet with you to discuss legal matters related to your inheritance." The mention of Robert and his father sent a chill through Annie. It was a moment she had always dreaded but knew would eventually come. She inhaled deeply, steadying herself for the conversation she never wanted to have. "They believe it's necessary to clarify a few points regarding the inheritance and properties," the lawyer continued. Annie remained silent for a moment, grappling with the flood of emotions. Though she had come so far since Robert had abandoned her, hearing his name again stirred old wounds. But she was not the same woman she had been back then. She had rebuilt herself stronger, surrounded by love, purpose, and a community that believed in her. "All right," she finally replied, her voice firm. "Tell them we can meet tomorrow at the center." The next day, Robert and his father arrived at the Hope Rehabilitation Center. They were met by Annie, seated at the head of the conference room table with Charles, Rebecca, and Michael by her side. The tension was thick as the two men took their seats, and Robert, looking uneasy, was the first to speak. "Annie, thank you for seeing us. I know we haven't been in touch, and there's a lot to go over. We're here to resolve matters regarding the inheritance and your properties," Robert began, his voice shaky, clearly uncomfortable. His father, cold and direct as ever, leaned in, eyes narrowed. "We need to ensure everything is in order so we can claim what's rightfully ours." Annie's eyes darkened at his words. She had expected this meeting to be difficult, but hearing the entitlement in his voice filled her with a quiet rage. She glanced at Charles, who gave her an encouraging nod, then turned her gaze back to Robert's father, her voice ice cold. "And who the hell do you think you are to assume I'm going to hand over my inheritance? Get a grip," she said, her tone controlled but brimming with fury. Her words cut through the room like a knife. Robert's father, taken aback, stood abruptly, his face twisting with anger. "You have no idea what we've done for you. We deserve that inheritance," he roared, slamming his fist onto the table. But Annie didn't flinch. She remained seated, calm and in control, watching him with a steely gaze. The man's outburst only reaffirmed her decision to fight for what was hers. Beside her, Charles stood up, his eyes fixed on Robert's father with deadly seriousness. He was ready to defend Annie, no matter the cost. "Disrespect Annie again, and I swear, I'll break your face," Charles growled, his fists clenched at his sides. "Try it, you little brat," Robert's father spat, stepping toward Charles, his face twisted in fury. But before the confrontation could escalate further, Robert intervened, shoving his father back. "What the hell are you doing, Dad?" Robert shouted, his voice filled with desperation. "Isn't it enough what you've made me do? You forced me to leave Annie, and now you want to take something that doesn't belong to us." His words came out in a rush, full of regret, and for the first time, Robert's mask of compliance crumbled. His father, stunned, stared at him in disbelief, not expecting his son to turn against him. The room fell silent as Annie took in Robert's words. Despite everything, hearing him acknowledge the truth stirred something within her, but she remained resolute. With quiet strength, she spoke, her voice calm yet firm. "I understand you're here to discuss the inheritance, but let me be clear, my priority has never been the money or the properties. It's this center and the well-being of the people it helps. That's what matters most to me." Her words hung in the air, heavy with finality. Charles, still standing by her side, took her hand in a gesture of unwavering support. "Annie has built something here that has changed countless lives," he added. "We won't let anyone take that away or destroy what she's worked so hard to create." Robert lowered his head, guilt written all over his face, while his father's expression hardened further, though he said nothing. Annie stood up, signaling that the meeting was over. "You both came here to discuss legal matters, and now you have my answer. I won't let greed or past mistakes dictate my future. I'm moving forward, and I suggest you do the same." Without waiting for a response, she turned and walked out of the conference room, her heart pounding but her spirit intact. Charles followed closely behind, his admiration for her growing even deeper. They had faced the past head-on, and now, more than ever, they were ready to continue their journey together, stronger than ever before. In the letter, Robert's tone was humble and sincere, a stark contrast to the man who had stood before her just days earlier. He wrote, "Annie, I want to start by apologizing once again for everything. After our meeting, I spent a lot of time thinking about what you said, and I've realized how far I've strayed from who I used to be. I let my father's greed and my insecurities drive me down a path that hurt you, and for that, I am truly sorry. You've built something beautiful at the Hope Rehabilitation Center, and I don't want to be the one to tear it down. I've started therapy to address my issues, and I've decided I want to turn my life around. Seeing what you've done for the community has inspired me to try to find a new purpose. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I know that will take time, but I wanted you to know that I'm trying to be better. I hope one day we can have a peaceful conversation about all of this, but until then, I wish you all the best with the center in your new life." As Annie finished reading the letter, she felt a mix of emotions: relief, sadness, and perhaps a glimmer of hope. It was clear that Robert had been deeply impacted by their confrontation and was finally taking steps to become a better person. She wasn't sure if she would ever fully forgive him for abandoning her during one of the most difficult periods of her life, but she respected the fact that he was trying to change. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 5 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. When she shared the contents of the letter with Charles, Rebecca, and Michael later that day, they were equally surprised. "It sounds like he's genuinely trying to make amends," Charles said thoughtfully. "That's a good step forward, but the important thing is that you're not letting his past actions affect the incredible future you've built here." Rebecca nodded in agreement. "He's doing the right thing now, but that doesn't change what you've accomplished without him. You didn't need his approval or help to create this place, you did it, Annie." Annie smiled, feeling the weight of the confrontation lift off her shoulders. "I'm just grateful that we were able to move past it without tearing each other down further. This place, this life, it's my focus now. I hope Robert can find his path too." With the situation behind them, the Hope Rehabilitation Center continued to thrive. Every day, more patients arrived, eager for the chance to rebuild their lives. Annie, Charles, Rebecca, and Michael remained at the helm, leading the center with love, compassion, and unwavering commitment. The center was now a cornerstone of the community, a place where hope was not just restored but nurtured and strengthened. Weeks passed, and one afternoon, as Annie was sitting at her desk reviewing new proposals for the center's expansion, she found herself reflecting on how far she had come. The fear and uncertainty she once felt had been replaced by a deep sense of purpose. She no longer questioned her strength or her ability to face adversity. Charles knocked lightly on her office door before stepping in, his ever-present smile lighting up the room. "Annie, the Community Council just approved our request for additional funding. It looks like we'll be able to build that new wing for specialized pediatric care sooner than we thought." Annie's face lit up with excitement. "That's incredible news, Charles. This expansion will help so many more children who need it." Charles stepped closer, taking her hands gently in his. "You've made all of this possible, Annie. This center wouldn't exist without your strength and vision." Tears of gratitude filled her eyes as she looked at him. "I couldn't have done any of this alone. You, Rebecca, Michael, the whole community, we've built this together." Charles smiled warmly, pulling her into a tight hug. "And we'll keep building it, Annie, for years to come." As they stood there, Annie felt a profound sense of peace. The challenges she had faced, the accident, the betrayal, the confrontation with Robert and his father had all shaped her into the person she was now, stronger, more compassionate, and determined to keep moving forward. The Hope Rehabilitation Center was more than just a place of healing for others, it had healed her, too. Months later, another letter arrived from Robert, though this time it wasn't filled with apologies. He wrote to tell Annie about his journey toward redemption. He had begun working with a nonprofit focused on mental health and rehabilitation, inspired by the work she had done. He wasn't trying to mend their relationship, but rather to share that he had found his path, one focused on helping others and making amends for his past mistakes. Annie smiled as she read the letter, knowing that everyone deserved a second chance, even Robert. Though their paths had diverged long ago, both had found ways to turn pain into purpose. The Hope Rehabilitation Center continued to grow and flourish, with new wings, programs, and success stories emerging every day. And through it all, Annie remained at the heart of it, surrounded by her dedicated team, friends, and the community she had come to love. Together, they created not just a center of healing, but a legacy of hope that would last for generations. Dear Annie, I trust this letter reaches you in good health and peace. With the deepest sincerity, I must extend my heartfelt apologies for the pain and distress I caused you. My mistakes weigh heavily on me, and I've come to a profound realization that I must change. I've taken the first steps by seeking therapy, working tirelessly on becoming a better, more accountable person. Your strength and grace have been a beacon of inspiration for me, leading me to want to do something truly meaningful with my life. If you would allow it, I would love to return to the center, not to reclaim anything or seek forgiveness, but to offer my help in any way you deem fit. My heart longs for redemption, and more than anything, I wish to contribute to something positive and healing. With the utmost respect and gratitude, Robert. Annie carefully reread the letter, feeling a whirlwind of emotions swirl inside her. Could people truly change? Could Robert? Deep down, she believed that everyone deserves the opportunity for redemption, especially when their remorse seems genuine and their will to change sincere. She brought the letter to Charles, Rebecca, and Michael, and after much deliberation, they agreed to give Robert a chance to prove himself. Weeks passed before Robert made his return to town. This time, he wasn't the man they once knew. His demeanor, once burdened with guilt and defensiveness, had transformed into one of humility and quiet determination. When he met Annie and the others at the center, his face reflected pure gratitude. He didn't ask for anything but expressed his earnest desire to serve, to give back. Annie, though still cautious, felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps Robert had truly changed. She welcomed him back with small tasks to help around the center, tasks she thought would give him a chance to contribute without overwhelming him. At first, Robert worked quietly behind the scenes, assisting with administrative work and offering to coordinate events. He was diligent, never shying away from the hard tasks, and gradually the small shifts in his behavior became impossible to ignore. Over time, the team began to see a different side of him, one that was genuine, vulnerable, and filled with the intent to right the wrongs of his past. Charles, who had been the most skeptical, started to see something in Robert he hadn't anticipated: authentic effort and a heart that truly wanted to change. During one of the larger community events Robert helped organize, Charles approached him. His tone was calm, yet laced with the weight of their complicated history. "Robert, I know it's been a long road, and I don't pretend the past can be erased. But I see you're really trying. And for that, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for showing up and putting in the work." A look of pure gratitude washed over Robert's face. "Charles," he responded, voice thick with emotion, "I can't undo the damage I've done, but I'm here to prove that I can be better. This place, it means everything to me now. I'm committed to doing whatever I can to help." The event turned out to be a triumph, thanks largely to Robert's dedication. Slowly but surely, the community, once doubtful and wary of his return, began to see him in a new light. They noticed the quiet way he worked tirelessly, how he stayed late to help and never asked for recognition. His effort to earn back their trust didn't go unnoticed, and bit by bit he was no longer seen as the man who had caused harm, but as someone striving for redemption. Meanwhile, Annie and Charles continued to deepen their relationship. Through the trials and successes of running the center, they grew stronger together, tackling the challenges side by side. Rebecca and Michael remained steadfast partners in their journey, always willing to lend their support and assist in the new projects that helped the center thrive. The Hope Rehabilitation Center had blossomed into a place of healing and growth. Success stories flourished, bringing light and hope to everyone involved. Yet, as life often goes, peace is fleeting. A new, unforeseen challenge loomed on the horizon, one that would shake the very foundation they had worked so hard to build. One crisp morning, as Annie and Charles reviewed the latest progress reports, Rebecca burst into the office, her face pale and her hands trembling. She clutched a document, her voice heavy with urgency. "We've got a serious issue," she said, thrusting the paper toward them. "This just came in from the town hall. It's an anonymous complaint. They're saying we don't meet certain safety standards." Annie's heart sank as she took the document from Rebecca's hands, scanning the words with growing disbelief. "How can this be?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "We've done everything by the book. Every regulation. We've followed it." Charles's brow furrowed in thought. He could feel a storm brewing. This doesn't feel right. It's too sudden, too targeted. Someone might be trying to sabotage us, but who? As the weight of the revelation settled over them, it became clear that their journey was far from over. The road ahead would be treacherous, testing their unity, resilience, and belief in the goodness they were fighting for. Michael, informed of the situation, arrived shortly after. "I reached out to some contacts at the town hall," he said, his voice calm but serious. "It seems like someone's deliberately trying to undermine the center's reputation. We need to act fast to prove that we've complied with all regulations and ensure these accusations are groundless." Anna, Charles, Rebecca, and Michael gathered to discuss their next steps. They decided the best course of action was to conduct a thorough internal audit, meticulously reviewing every aspect of their operations. Their goal was to not only prove their compliance, but to fortify the center's standing in the face of any future challenges. As the team moved forward with their plans, life presented Anna with an unexpected crossroads. She received an offer from an international organization, asking her to serve as a consultant to help replicate the center's model in other parts of the world. The opportunity was both thrilling and daunting, promising new doors and wider influence, but it came with a significant cost. Anna would have to step away from the center she had poured her heart into and from the community she loved so dearly. With her mind full of questions and possibilities, Anna knew she couldn't make the decision alone. One afternoon, she gathered Charles, Rebecca, and Michael in the conference room to discuss the offer. "I have something important to share," she began, her voice laced with both excitement and apprehension. "I've been offered a chance to help replicate our center's model on a global scale." Charles, visibly taken aback, asked the question that was on everyone's mind. "Does that mean you'd have to leave the center?" Anna nodded, her eyes reflecting the conflict within. "Yes, it would mean a lot of travel and time away, but it's a rare opportunity to make an even bigger impact and help more people." Rebecca, ever the thoughtful one, chimed in. "This is an amazing chance, Anna, but we have to think about what it means for the center here. We've worked so hard to get to this point, and we don't want to lose everything we've built." Michael, steady as always, added, "Maybe there's a way to balance both. You could take on the consulting role and still be involved here. We could build a team to manage the center in your absence. It's possible to have both worlds without compromising either." Anna's heart warmed with gratitude as she looked at her team. They were more than colleagues, they were her family. "That's a great idea, Michael. If we prepare properly, we can keep growing here while expanding our reach elsewhere." Over the following weeks, they meticulously crafted a plan. They identified key staff members to take on leadership roles and provided intensive training to ensure smooth operations during Anna's absences. Robert, whose dedication had become evident to all, was given the role of administrative coordinator, a position he had earned through his tireless work and commitment to change. In the midst of it all, Anna realized she needed to address another important aspect of her life, her relationship with Charles. One evening, after a long day of planning, she sat down with him. "Charles," she began softly, "this opportunity means so much to me, but I don't want it to come between us. I love you, and I want to make sure our relationship stays strong. Will you be able to support me through this?" Charles looked into her eyes with deep love and unwavering resolve. "Anna, I love you more than anything. I will always support you, no matter where life takes us. We can make this work. Distance won't change how I feel, and I want to see you thrive. You deserve this." With a heart full of hope and love, Anna knew that whatever decision she made, she wouldn't be facing it alone. The team at the center, and Charles by her side, had given her the strength to believe that anything was possible. Together they would face the challenges ahead, united in their shared vision of creating positive change, not just locally but across the world. With the plan well underway and the unwavering support of her team and Charles, Annie officially accepted the offer from the international organization. The agreement was that she would travel periodically, returning to the center frequently to oversee operations and offer her continued support. It was a balancing act that would allow her to expand her impact without losing her connection to the place she had built with such care. The day of her departure was filled with emotion. The entire community of the center gathered to bid her farewell and wish her success in this new chapter. Faces of gratitude and admiration surrounded her as she stood before them, a bittersweet smile on her face. "This isn't goodbye," she said, her voice quivering with emotion. "It's a see you later. This center will always be my home. And I will be back to witness all the growth and amazing work you'll continue to do." Annie embraced her new role with excitement and determination, traveling to various countries to help establish rehabilitation centers based on the model she had created. Her contributions were recognized and praised, and she quickly became a leading figure in the global rehabilitation community. Despite the distance, she remained in close contact with Charles and her team, making every return to the Hope Rehabilitation Center a joyous reunion. Each time she stepped back through its doors, seeing the center's continued success filled her heart with pride and reaffirmed her belief in the work they were doing. But life, as always, had its challenges. While attending an international conference, Annie's phone buzzed with an urgent call from Rebecca. "Annie, we've got a serious situation at the center. One of our youngest patients is in crisis. We need your help." Without a second thought, Annie booked the first flight back home. The moment she arrived at the center, her focus sharpened. The crisis was real, but so was her experience and leadership. With calm and decisive actions, Annie coordinated a swift and effective response, guiding her team through the situation with precision. The crisis was averted, and in that moment it became clear just how essential her presence still was to the heart of the center. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 6 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. This incident deeply resonated with Annie, reminding her of the delicate balance she needed to maintain between her international commitments and the House and Rehabilitation Center. She made the decision to adjust her schedule, ensuring that she could spend more time at the center while continuing her global work. It was a commitment to both worlds that filled her with renewed purpose. The Hope Rehabilitation Center continued to flourish, with Annie dividing her time between her international projects and the place she had nurtured from the ground up. The team, empowered by her leadership and trust, operated like a well-oiled machine. The community was thriving, with countless stories of healing, recovery, and hope emerging from the center's halls. The future seemed brighter than ever before, with the support of everyone standing as a testament to their shared mission. A year after accepting the international offer, Annie decided to organize a grand celebration, a day to express her gratitude to the team, the patients, and the community, and to reflect on all they had achieved together. Preparations for the event were nothing short of monumental, but the enthusiasm from everyone involved made it feel less like work and more like a joyous collaboration. Flowers adorned the halls, lights twinkled overhead, and the air buzzed with anticipation. On the day of the celebration, the center was transformed into a vibrant, festive space. Families of patients, staff members, and community supporters all gathered under the bright sky, sharing stories of triumph and healing. Annie stood at the front, flanked by Charles, Rebecca, and Michael, all of them beaming with pride. As the crowd quieted and the speeches were about to begin, Annie looked out over the sea of faces, the faces of people whose lives had been touched and changed by the center. A wave of emotion washed over her, and she knew, deep in her heart, that no matter how far her work took her, this center would always be her home. Annie stepped forward to speak, her voice strong but filled with emotion. "This journey has been nothing short of miraculous," she began, her eyes glistening. "I am so deeply grateful to each and every one of you for your unwavering support, your dedication, and your love. Together we have created something far greater than any one of us could have done alone. This center is proof of the power of community, of resilience, and of hope." The crowd erupted into applause, the sound of unity and joy echoing across the grounds. It was a moment of pure celebration, not just of Annie's accomplishments, but of everything the Hope Rehabilitation Center had come to represent, a beacon of hope, healing, and second chances. As the night wore on, filled with laughter, music, and shared memories, Annie stood back for a moment, watching the scene unfold. She knew there would be challenges ahead, as there always are, but with her team by her side and the strength of their shared purpose, she felt ready for anything. Together they had built something timeless, and together they would continue to change lives. Anna took the microphone, her voice steady but her heart overflowing with gratitude and emotion. "Tonight, we're not just celebrating the success of this center," she began, her eyes sweeping over the crowd, "but the spirit of community, love, and hope that made it all possible. When I first arrived here, I was in a desperate place. But because of each and every one of you, we've built something truly extraordinary, something that transcends walls and services and touches the very essence of what it means to care for one another. The crowd erupted in applause, and after a moment, Anna continued, I owe so much to my incredible team, Charles, Rebecca, and Michael. Your dedication, your unwavering support, and your belief in our shared vision have made everything we've achieved possible. And I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt thanks to Robert Astonishing, she said, turning toward him with a warm smile. Robert, you have shown us all that everyone deserves a second chance, and your transformation is a testament to the power of change and redemption. As the applause washed over him, Robert's eyes filled with emotion, and he humbly took a step forward. Thank you, Anna, he said quietly, his voice full of sincerity. This center has given me a new purpose, a new way of seeing the world. More than anything, it's taught me the value of helping others. I'm so grateful to be part of this family. Charles, ever the steadfast partner, took Annie's hand and spoke next. We've come such a long way, he said, his voice filled with passion. We've faced more challenges than we could have imagined, but we've also celebrated more victories than I could have hoped for. I'm thankful for every moment we've shared, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for us. Rebecca, always the organizer and the voice of reason, smiled warmly as she addressed the crowd. What we've built here is the result of collaboration, perseverance, and the belief that when people come together with a shared goal, incredible things happen. This center is a living, breathing testament to that, and I know we'll continue making this world a better place, one step at a time. Finally, Michael stepped forward, his calm demeanor and steady leadership evident as always. As the mayor of this town, I've seen firsthand the impact this center has had on our community. It's more than just a place for recovery, it's a lifeline, a beacon of hope. I'm so proud to support this mission, and I'm honored to be a part of this incredible family. As the speeches came to a close, the celebration burst into full swing. Laughter and music filled the air as people gathered to share food and memories, and patients took the stage to tell their stories of healing and transformation. Families expressed their profound gratitude for the love and support they had found here, the center standing as a symbol of hope in their lives. It was a night filled with reflection, pride, and an unshakable sense of optimism about the future. Later that evening, as the festivities wound down, Annie and Charles found themselves walking hand in hand through the center's tranquil garden. The night sky was clear, and the stars twinkled overhead, casting a gentle light on the path before them. Annie paused, looking up at the sky, her heart full. Charles, she whispered, I never imagined we'd come this far. This center, it's so much more than a place of rehabilitation. It's a home. It's a family. Charles wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. Anna, he murmured, his voice filled with love, what we've created here is nothing short of remarkable. And the best part of it all is that we've done it together. I'm excited for everything that's still to come for this center, for us, for our future. Annie smiled, her heart swelling with a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. Yes, she whispered, her voice soft and full of certainty. Together we can achieve anything. And in that quiet, starlit moment, they both knew that the journey they were on was only just beginning, full of promise, full of hope, and filled with endless possibilities. As the Hope Rehabilitation Center continued to flourish, Annie, Charles, Rebecca, and Michael each found a beautiful balance between their personal aspirations and professional responsibilities. They had all come from different places, yet together, they were united in their mission to uplift others and bring healing to those in need. Anna embraced her role as an international consultant, traveling to different countries and helping to establish rehabilitation centers modeled after the success of Hope. With each return to the center, she was welcomed back with open arms by the community she had nurtured. Every visit gave her the opportunity to witness firsthand the far-reaching effects of her vision, both locally and globally. Charles remained by her side through every step of her journey. Their relationship, a bedrock of support, grew stronger as they shared the same passion for helping others. Together they became a symbol of partnership and dedication, committed to the belief that their love and collaboration could truly make the world a better place. Rebecca and Michael also continued to thrive in both their personal and professional lives. Their bond deepened as they poured their love and energy into the center, standing as steadfast pillars of support for its growth. Their commitment to each other and to the mission of the center inspired everyone around them. It wasn't just the work they did, but the way they lived their lives with purpose, integrity, and a dedication to service that made them role models for the entire community. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 7 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. In the years that followed, the Hope Rehabilitation Center expanded far beyond what any of them had originally imagined. It became not just a local haven for healing, but a beacon of hope for other communities worldwide. Rehabilitation centers based on the Hope model sprang up across countries, carrying with them Annie's original vision of a place where everyone was given a second chance. The center's success was a testament to what could be achieved when love, collaboration, and resilience came together. Through every expansion and new project, Annie, Charles, Rebecca, and Michael remained united. Their friendship, strengthened by all they had been through, became the foundation upon which they built their futures. They proved, time and time again, that no obstacle was too great to overcome when faced with dedication, compassion, and teamwork. They also showed that any dream, no matter how grand, could be brought to life with the right mix of love and perseverance. The legacy of the Hope Rehabilitation Center continued to touch countless lives, offering a lifeline to those who needed it most. At the heart of this thriving center was the community that had made it all possible, a community bound together by a shared purpose and a deep, unbreakable love. As the years passed, Annie eventually decided to step back from her active role at the center, knowing that she had created something lasting and profound. She entrusted the leadership of the center to a new generation of passionate, dedicated leaders who were inspired by her legacy and committed to carrying her vision forward. Though she retired, her spirit remained deeply embedded in the very fabric of the center. Her philosophy of love, inclusion, and healing guided every decision, ensuring that the future of the Hope Rehabilitation Center was bright and hopeful. In her later years, surrounded by family, friends, and the countless people whose lives she had touched, Annie often reflected on the incredible journey she had been on. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for every challenge, every lesson learned, and every victory. She knew without a doubt that she had found her purpose, and she had left the world a little better than she had found it. Annie's story, and the story of the Hope Rehabilitation Center, stands as a powerful testament to the strength of the human spirit. It reminds us of our capacity for resilience and how, through adversity, we can find meaning and purpose. Her journey from pain to transformation is proof that with the right support, love, and determination, anyone can overcome their struggles and create something beautiful out of them. This story also serves as a call to action for all of us to consider the impact we can have on others. Every act of kindness, every decision to extend a helping hand, and every effort to work together toward a greater good has the potential to transform not just individual lives, but entire communities. Annie and her team showed us that while the road may not always be easy, the legacy of love, support, and hope we leave behind can ripple through generations, far beyond what we can ever imagine. As we come to the end of this incredible journey, we hope that Annie's story and the legacy of the Hope Rehabilitation Center have inspired you as much as it has inspired us. Annie's life is a powerful reminder that no matter how challenging the road ahead may seem, with resilience, love, and a shared purpose, anything is possible. So now we'd love to hear from you. What have you learned from this story? What's one lesson or value that resonated with you? And how will you apply it to your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your reflections and experiences. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below and let us know. Or don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring content just like this. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us.